So, good morning. Welcome to the Rebel Business School part of the How to Make More Money Than Your Friends series. I'm Henry. I'm from the Rebel Business School, and today we are interviewing Matt Estlea. Matt is a YouTuber. Matt makes a ton of money on YouTube every month, just making videos, doing something that he loves doing. So today it's my job to grill him about how that works, what happened, where the thing came from, and what are the practical implications of that? How can we get you guys doing that as well? Because becoming a YouTuber is something that is so common. And I don't know about you, but when I used to speak to my parents about that and being a YouTuber full time, it was kind of, when you're going to get a proper job? That was the kind of thing that I was met with. So I'm super excited to have Matt here today. I've known Matt for a long time, and we're going to go through that journey, how it came about, what was the reactions that you sort of got for that, and how we can enable you to do the same thing so you can start making money doing something that you love doing and never work a day in your life. Morning, Matt.
Hello, mate. Hello. How you doing?
Yeah, good. How are you?
Very good. Very good.
Love it. So obviously we've got a whole bunch of people here that have no idea who you are. So what do you do? What's your YouTube channel about? What's your thing?
So my YouTube channel, well, firstly, hello, everyone. Thanks for joining. My YouTube channel is based around woodworking. So kind of a traditional thingy. And I'm trying to put a sort of modern twist on it by sharing it on YouTube to begin with, educating people in the process, talking about my struggles and stories throughout the whole woodworking thing, and just trying to help people out in the process, really, and also making it fun for myself because I don't like working for another person.
I get it. I get it. That's cool. So what is your, is it how-to videos? Is it project videos? Is it, what's the sort of main crux of your content? What sort of thing are you creating?
So it has evolved over the years. Primarily, it used to be, when I started off, it was just documenting tutorials that I was making. I was doing them anyway. Why not set up a camera and just share that process? There's so much value to be shared in that process rather than just making it in the four walls of my workshop and then sending it off to someone or whatever. Why not share it? Why not, help other people learn from that? So it started off with that. Then I started getting requests on tutorials and things. So I sort of went into a more tutorial thing. Then I realized that, this is cool. I'm helping people out. But then I was like, it's a bit unfulfilling just constantly being of service to people. And so I sort of have reverted back somewhat in the past year to doing more project-based things where I'm sort of documenting my journey and struggles and stuff throughout, while also dipping in a few tutorials and stuff here and there to help people out rather than making it all about me.
But it is all about you, man.
I mean, it literally has my name on the channel, so yeah.
Awesome. What's the name of your channel, just for those that might want to have a look you up while we're chatting?
My name is, the name on the channel is my name, Matt Estlea. That's Estlea.
Awesome. Brilliant. So where did this, so you mentioned that you started filming some of the stuff that you were already doing. How did you find yourself doing this? Where did the whole woodwork thing come from? When did that begin?
I mean, there's all sorts of starting points I could begin with. I mean, so the woodworking thing started in secondary school. I mean, me and you both had a teacher, Gary O'Shea, shout out. He basically inspired me he opened my eyes to find woodworking in general. Previously, I just thought it was this thing that trees fell down and then somehow a box was made or something like that. But he really enlightened me to the process and the sort of creativity that comes into that. And I was always an artistic person when I was younger anyway, and it just ticked a lot of boxes for me. So I jumped into that. And then that, I've always had YouTuber tendencies growing up. Me and Henry used to make YouTube videos while growing up. There's all sorts of stuff that's probably still out there.
10 points if you find them today.
Yeah. I've always had tendencies as well as sort of more businessy entrepreneurial ones as well throughout my growing up. And so YouTube in a woodworking niche is just sort of the convergence of all of these things in one. And if I look back, it's this is obviously what I was going to end up doing at some point.
What came first? Did you know that you wanted to spend your time doing YouTube, or did you want to spend your time doing woodworking?
That's a really good question, actually. Honestly, I think it was probably YouTube. And that's still the driving thing throughout all of this, because, we started YouTube very, very young. both me and you. And I love the video editing side of it. And I love the sort of creativity of some of the videos we came up with and all sorts of things like that. Always love that side of things. The woodworking has always been a sort of outlet for my creativity. And I want to kind of keep it that way. But I think YouTube has always been the sort of way to share that. And it's the part that I really, really do love doing, the sort of creating a video, editing the video, releasing it, seeing the reaction and stuff. Woodworking is just a cool thing to kind of take me away from the computer screen and actually get hands-on with something rather than just pixels on a screen.
Yeah, of course. So okay, that's really interesting, because it's almost chicken and egg, isn't it? You know, some people go, I want to be a YouTuber, and then we need to fill that gap of about what, because you kind of need to have your niche. You need to have that really, really specific topic. Because it's hard to be a YouTuber. It's hard to do anything. It's hard to start a business if you're trying to cater for a huge group.
Yeah.
So have you found that with woodwork, obviously woodwork is the one you settled with, have you found that that's been easy to find the audience, the people to watch it?
I mean, so that, again, really good question. So YouTube is a sort of a niche in itself, but there were still people in that space when I started. The reason it worked for me is because I identified that there wasn't any young people in that niche. And it was always a very, like, woodworking, it's this sort of very slow and like, just plodding along thing. You're cutting a joint, you're hitting it together, and then it's like, cool. Like, I wanted some more energy behind that. There was a few people doing like blacksmith videos. There was people doing all sorts of other creative outlets that were actually making it fun and entertaining, but there wasn't a lot of that in woodworking. A few people were doing skits and stuff here and there, but it wasn't tended to a younger audience. And so that I had to kind of niche down within the woodworking industry, which is already niche in general, in order to sort of find my own little corner of that and then expand out from there. But at the moment, I can do a video on pretty much anything and guarantee that I would get views on it. But if I did this to start with, it would nowhere be niche enough. You've got to sort of start in a corner and then branch out from there.
Yeah, awesome. And just to, so niche, the word niche, I just want to dive into that just in case. So if you try and create something that appeals to everybody, like everybody in your classroom, everybody in your school, it's going to be really, really difficult to excite anybody, because everybody likes different stuff. But actually, if you can just pick one group of people, one really specific group, the people that like a certain type of music, people that like a certain type of food, it becomes really easy to figure out what you need to create and how to find them. That's what niche is. So when we talk about a niche audience, it is just a specific group of people. And what I find really interesting, Matt, about what you're talking about is that for me, as a non-YouTuber, as a non-woodworker, I'm sort of going, woodwork is already a pretty small group. But actually what you're saying is it's even smaller than that. You're sort of going into this micro group of people within that, who are looking for a certain style or a certain type of thing, and that's what you're delivering.
Yeah, that's the thing. And like, even within that, I've had to kind of niche down more with more, I won't call it competition, but it is competition. There's people competing for eyes and things like that. And that's the reason I've had to switch up the format in the past year to a more documenting rather than teaching kind of thing, because there are people doing it better than me. And I'm not necessarily like, I don't enjoy the whole teaching side of thing as much as I do the documenting. So I've really changed up a format to something that's now, it's the only person in my industry doing my style of videos is me. And I just need to build out from that again now.
Okay. Yeah, that's really cool. So taking it back then to where this all sort of started, you said something earlier that you've always had entrepreneurial activity or stuff. Like, I just want to dive into that a little bit. Like, is self-employment or having your own business, is that something that's in your family? Is that something you've grown up seeing? Like, where did that sort of come from?
Yeah. So this whole entrepreneurial stuff started very young for me, like not entrepreneurial in itself, but little tendencies and little things that now I look back, I sort of noticed like, yeah, that's probably where it would have started. So my dad owned a little food store, just a franchise. He was the owner of that. So when I was from about the age of 12 or 13, I was in that store, off the books, working behind the tills, stacking shelves, doing things here and there. in order to earn pocket money. We didn't really, I got £5 a month pocket money. Anything on top of that, I had to earn through working. And so I think from quite a young age, I realized that what most people eventually realize, I don't want to work in retail. So, so I got that lesson learned very quickly, and having to earn my money rather than just be given it, I think was an early life lesson that, you know, has obviously worked wonders now. So my dad owned the food store, and occasionally I'd go to the wholesalers with him. And there was one point where I went there and I saw a bunch of these things called brain lickers on the shelves. And I remember seeing them in the store that he works at. They sold for £1. And on this shelf in front of me, you could get a big box of them and it would work out at 55p each. So I was like, well, if I got that box, smuggled them into school, and then started selling them to students, because everyone came in with like pound coins that they could buy cake or whatever from at the school canteen, or Pasta King, that watery pasta.
That might be too close to the bone for some people watching.
So I realized that I could bring that in, I could stock up at the start of the week and start selling them to people, and they went like within a day. Occasionally I'll get stock stolen from the school chavs. Sometimes I do deals, like 2 for £1.50. It was just this fun thing that I was doing. Eventually, teachers cottoned onto it. Henry started selling stuff eventually. We also had a guy called Sanjit who used to sell Coca-Cola from his locker. I'm very careful to call it Coca-Cola and not Coke. But lots of people started doing it. It's this really fun sort of school black market we had. Sort of fighting against the Jamie Oliver healthy school system that was going on. So that was basically where it started for me with these entrepreneurial tendencies. It eventually, when I went to university, it started changing into you can get this stuff called wood veneer. I don't know if I've got any up here, but it's really thin pieces of wood that you lay over MDF to make it look like proper wood when actually it's rubbish underneath. So I used to buy this stuff on eBay, like bidding for it just to make little projects and stuff here and there, but it was really costly. But what I realized is there's lots of big companies out there, massive veneer manufacturers, that have boxes of offcuts at the end of the day that they just lob out at the end. So I emailed loads of these companies asking, can I just have your offcuts? Like, they're going to be thrown out anyway. I'll pay for delivery. I'll pay for the box and whatever. Can I just have that? So I used to get boxes of these veneers, and for free, pretty much. I'll just package them up, list them on eBay, and sell them for, like, you know, packs not that big that would cost me free. I'd get like 20, 30 quid, sometimes 50 quid for some of these packs here and there.
Wow.
And it's always just been this fun thing for me, like just making a little game of it. How can I reduce the cost? How can I sell it to people? If people aren't buying, what can I do? It's a game for me, and I love it.
Yeah, I love that. And like, we all know that one kid who like bought Lego like 5 years ago, and he's holding on to it because he knows it's going to be worth 10 times the amount in like 2 years' time. And it's, you know, it's all of this stuff that we're hearing about cryptocurrencies. Like, I'm not involved in any of that stuff, but it is entrepreneurial activity. Is so simple, isn't it? I'm going to buy something for that, and I'm going to sell it for more, and that is it. And then you've made money, and the difference is what you've made. And I think, you know, it was happening so much at school. I never quite, like, until you just said it then, I've never actually sort of realized that it was just so normal. You know, everyone and their dog was selling something at school. Yeah. Like, you know, someone had Haribo in their bag that we just go and buy for 50p. Yeah. Someone went to the canteen. Like, do you remember they had those, God, I can't remember what they're called now. It was like that horrific cake. The canteen used to sell the most awful cake, and it was incredible. It was probably about 60p or something like that per slice. Yeah. And someone would go in, buy all of it, come out to the playground and be like, pound. Yeah. Pound per slice. And then
supply and demand, mate.
Yeah. I bought all of it, so you're going to buy it all. It's really genius. Now, obviously, if any teachers are watching, we're absolutely not implying that you should be going and selling any sugary treats at school, because you're not allowed to do that.
Absolutely not.
But entrepreneurial activity, meaningful entrepreneurial activity, is very, very good. So, okay, cool. So you sort of grew up with it being fairly normal, you know, with your dad running the grocery store. Yeah. And I think nowadays, anyway, sort of having parents that are self-employed, like my parents were never self-employed. It was totally alien to me. And it was only sort of as I sort of got into my sort of 19, 20 years old that I suddenly went, oh, I don't really want to work for somebody else. But, I'd spent so long with my dad telling me that that's what I had to do. And that's how life worked, is that I go to school, I do well, somebody will pay me money to go and do the things that they want me to do.
Yeah.
And actually there are other routes. And I think that's what is really, really exciting about, especially about what you do, because it's so far on the other side to that. You're not working for anybody else. Mm-hmm. You're just creating and you're making money from it. So I want to start getting into like the how and how this stuff works and your journey through this. So when did you start? Roughly what year did you start? How long have you been doing it for?
I'm so bad with years. I want to say I started, the first sort of videos were posted in 2016, but I didn't properly start doing it until 2017, I reckon.
Okay, cool. And then at that time, who are you sort of drawing inspiration from? Like, where was that coming from?
Inspiration was coming from varying sources. So I don't watch TV. I don't watch series or anything like that. I only watch YouTube. And that's still the case nowadays, really. So it came from, I wouldn't say it was any particular creator it was mainly just from the community on YouTube in general, and sort of like the direction that was heading. Were videos being posted more frequently, or was more effort being put into them? Like, the whole quality versus quantity thing. And I was sort of messing around with that a little bit, noticing it was a younger audience. And I was just sort of playing around, throwing random ideas out there to see what would stick. But inspiration was drawn from YouTube as a whole rather than individual people, I would say.
Okay. Oh yeah, that's pretty cool. Because I guess like this stuff sort of similarly to TikTok and everything, it kind of works in the same way, doesn't it?
Yes, exactly.
There's this huge community of creators, people just doing stuff.
Yeah.
And people are drawing inspiration from each other. And
you need to be able to speak the native language of that platform. So like posting something on Twitter is entirely different to posting on Instagram versus, TikTok is still a video platform. I go on there, I just feel lost. I'm too old for it now. And I'm only 25. I'm trying to change that, but it's an entirely different ball game. No,
you're just 25. You can't change it. Yeah. Well, I mean, nobody even uses Facebook anymore.
No,
or Twitter, really. I only use Twitter if I want to complain about something.
Yeah.
So but you're right. It's totally different, and you have to figure out which one you want to spend your time doing. Because this is where you hang out. You've got to figure out where you want to spend your time.
Yeah.
Socializing, so that you can build it from there, right?
Yeah, but that's it. Like you don't have to niche yourself down to one of those platforms. It's kind of like if you go to a meeting with a client versus if you go to a restaurant with your family, you're going to act different in both of them, but you know how to act in both of them still. It's just you put on a different hat for each one, and it just becomes an extension of your sort of core personality. YouTube is just the one that I'm most comfortable with, and less so with the other platforms.
Yeah, absolutely. So you started around 2017. Mm-hmm. How long was it until you were, I'm just trying to figure out the right way of saying it. Like, how long was it until this thing was happening and working and running and like, a meaningful amount of views on everything, and you saw this thing picking up? How long did that take?
So yeah, when I started posting the videos in 2016, it was just projects and stuff here and there. There wasn't a lot of uptake on it. The only people watching it were friends and family and stuff who happened to be in the workshop, saw me filming, and were curious about where that video was actually ending up. So that's what started. But then in 2017, I began posting in September. And I was kind of fortunate with the timing because woodworking sort of, if you look at Google Trends and stuff like that, it has this sort of uptake in this lead up to Christmas, because people are like, I could make something this Christmas instead of buying something, or my tutorials always see a skyrocket in views in the lead up to Christmas. Okay. So I started posting frequently in that period and sort of rode that wave. Unbeknown to me, it was just happening. But then, so I should say I experienced a sort of high uptake in views, revenue and stuff, and was like, well, I've hit a gold mine here. And then January hit. All of a sudden, no one really wanted to start woodworking. Turns out New Year's resolutions for woodworking aren't really a thing. It just sharp decline, and also revenue from YouTube as well, because advertisers aren't pumping money into YouTube after Christmas. It was like views went down, revenue went down, and that's where I got a sort of real, I mean, we're talking in a third or a quarter. We're talking real, a real cut in everything on that point.
Where does your money come from, Matt?
Money comes from varying sources. Got ad revenue, so the 5-second ads you skip at the start of videos most frequently. We've got affiliate marketing when I recommend a product. We've got products that I sell on my store. So that's both digital plans that people can just buy and download as a PDF, or physical products like I'm making a bunch of marking knives at the moment. I should have bought one up, but they're all down there. Sponsorships, not so much, but I do get reached out occasionally by things like Skillshare and Squarespace and all that, those common advertisers you see. I don't tend to do them because I don't really like them, but if I'm short 1 month or I need to buy something, maybe I'll take it. All sorts of sources.
Okay, because I think that's one of the biggest question marks is like when you think about, I want to become an influencer or a YouTuber or insert, social media work, income. Actually, you sort of, when you think about it, the people that are digesting and watching your content, the people that are viewing the videos and all that kind of stuff, they're not paying anything.
No.
So the money doesn't come from them necessarily. So actually, how do you get that? And I think this is the question I get asked quite a lot when we run our courses is, I want to spend my time creating these videos, but how do I get people to pay for that? And I think, having those sources, and also knowing that there's a few of them. So ad revenue, sponsorship, all that kind of stuff.
The downfall a lot of people have is they start with the question, how can I make money from this? Because the thing is, in order for all of these income sources to be viable, you need to do them at scale, like huge. And when I'm not talking ad revenue from one video, I've got 200 or so videos out there that are all gaining me ad revenue. That's the same for all the affiliate products that are listed in those descriptions. It all needs to be done at scale. So if you're doing this for the money, sure, I was quite lucky early on, but that's not the case. And as we saw, I learned a lesson the hard way when it was cut into a quarter. You need to start from, how can I provide value and a service to people that they're going to want to share, that YouTube's going to like me posting out there, so it's going to share it to more people. And then naturally the byproduct of that is scale of viewers, scale of income and all that. But if you start with it the wrong way around, then you're going to get nowhere.
Right. So you've got to be doing this because it excites you.
Yeah.
Not because it's going to make you any money.
Absolutely.
How long was it that from when so 2017 is when it sort of like officially was, you actually said, I've got a YouTube channel.
Mm-hmm.
How long did it take you to go full time? Because now this is your full time thing. You don't do anything else. This is what you spend your time doing. It's amazing. You can do that. I love that that's a thing. But how long did that take for you to be able to do that?
I only just became full time in September this year. Alongside that, I was using employment at Axminster, which is a sort of tools and machinery supplier. I was working there on weekends. Then I was teaching at a college, furniture making, alongside this thing to keep it, I wouldn't say keep it afloat. I could have done it much earlier on, like probably 2 years ago, but with the timing of the pandemic to start with, but also it was much better for me to work 2 jobs and earn extra money that I could then reinvest back into this now, rather than sort of struggle month to month just for the sake of going full time. If I went full time 2 years ago, I wouldn't be where I am now, because I wouldn't have had that spare capital that I could put into machines or software or various other pieces of equipment. So it was a decision that I consciously made, but I could have gone either way if I wanted.
Yeah. Okay. What I love is that you worked at a tools and machinery shop, so you made the most of the discount that you could get from.
Yeah, but the funny thing about that is, like, I always say that to people: it's work at a store where you can get discount, and preferably choose one where you can get a discount on the essential things you need. Tools and equipment is obviously the one for me, but even working at a food store like Tesco or Sainsbury's, food is still an essential. You can still get a discount on that to make your personal expenses cheaper, therefore giving you extra money to buy the machines and things like that. Sure, you probably get more bang for your buck if you work at the tools and machinery supplier, but there's other ways you can do it.
Yeah, it makes your life cheaper, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a really good shout. And I guess, depending what the YouTube channel might be about, if you're doing a makeup one,
yeah,
get a job at a makeup store, like get the discounts for that, because then you can start reviewing things for cheaper. Because I think, and this is one of the the common misconceptions of YouTube stuff is that as soon as you have a YouTube channel, people will send you products.
Yeah.
And that is one of the exciting things about being an influencer, is that you just get free things.
It's also one of the drawbacks, I can tell you.
Really?
The amount of rubbish I get pitched to me. Anyway.
I'm sure there's loads of it in your videos. I'm sure people
are. Yeah.
That's really cool. Okay, so diving into the practical bits, I'm just aware that we've been just chatting about random stuff, but so it took you a fair while to get into it, and you did work alongside that, but that was a conscious decision so that you could fund it and do it comfortably. And I think that's a really important point, is knowing that this was your goal, knowing that this is where you're going to end up, doing YouTube full time. Going and getting a part-time job alongside that becomes much more like acceptable, doesn't it, for you? Because you know that you're not doing that forever. That's the goal. This just helps along the way.
Yes.
That's super important.
Yeah, the idea of building something, like actually building something rather than day-to-day maintenance of a store or something like that. Just, again, it's one of those boxes that was ticked for me that I earned early on from the age of 13, that I don't want to be doing this for very long. Yeah.
And actually knowing that like 13 and now you're 25 full-time doing what you want to do, that's not a huge amount of time. That's hugely impressive. And I think this stuff, you want to sort of put that work in early.
Yeah.
So that like 25, you've only really just become an adult. Like you've got the rest of your life. Well, you've got the rest of your life to do all the other stuff, and you're going to spend the majority of your life doing the things that you love doing rather than working for someone else, Yeah,
that's it. Before you got kids, before you got a mortgage, all that sort of stuff. If you start this stuff early, or at least don't necessarily start it early, but start educating yourself on, like you mentioned the whole cryptocurrency thing earlier, digital art and NFTs and stuff like that. If people got on this now, that could be a huge thing in a few years. It could also flop. Who knows? But learning this stuff now and at least educating yourself at a young age will pay dividends later on.
Yeah, it pays you back. It massively pays you back. So let's get into the practicalities of it then. So I want to start a YouTube channel today. I want to start that process. I've decided I'm going to be a YouTuber, and I'm going to be doing it about music or football or something like that. I know what the niche is. Yep. What's the first thing? What are the steps from this point on?
So the first thing you need to bear in mind, or the first question you need to ask yourself, is what does YouTube want from me? Because at the end of the day, it's their platform. They're the one who's going to be promoting your videos. Sure, it'll be viewers who are actually watching it, but YouTube is the broker in between that puts your videos in front of the viewers. So you need to please YouTube before the viewer. So ask yourself, what does YouTube want? Well, they only want one thing. They want profit. And that's it, really. So how are they going to get profit? They sell advertising space to advertisers. How do they do that? Well, in order to do that at scale, they need to have people on the platform for as long as possible. They need to keep viewers on the platform for as long as possible. So how do they do that? Well, it's either through longer videos, or that's through making people binge watch videos. How do you plug into that? You need to make good videos. You need to make people that you need to make videos that make people stay on YouTube for longer, either through long videos that capture their attention for long periods of time, or lots of short bingeable videos that causes them the same like Netflix effects we get, where it's like you can either drop off or you could go to the next episode. It's that same kind of thing. You need to keep people on the platform for as long as possible. There's various ways of doing that, and it's working out which one works best for you. But that is its core principle. I'm technically a YouTube employee now. I want to keep people on the platform for as long as possible.
Okay. Yeah, that's really cool. I think that there's a step before that is actually just start it. Start trying to make videos, because you're right. We need to be creating stuff that YouTube like. We need to be creating stuff that keeps people there. But the bit before that is, how do I make a good video? How does that happen? And I think really it's kind of that practice makes perfect. You've got to just try stuff. And if you haven't got like, most of us have cameras in our pockets, right? Like most of us are carrying around more than enough equipment. If you're not, the local school, library, they've all got equipment you can borrow. So you just need to figure out, how can I access the kit that I need, which is pretty much a camera and a microphone. Sound is important. And then you just want to sort of start, don't you?
Yeah, that's it. So what I explained there is sort of a core concept. But as for actually starting off, think of it like that when starting off, the thing you want to do is quantity, not quality. If you focus too much on quality, then you're not really going to get anywhere. If you think of it like a game of battleships, if you're constantly saying, I'm going to go for D4 on the other side, D4, D4, and the person on the other side keeps saying miss, and no one's like, it's not getting anywhere. What would be a better use of your time is if you could systematically go through all of those grids and say A1, A2, A3, and see what eventually hits through iteration after iteration, trying different formats, trying different styles of presenting, lots of different ways. So trying lots of different methods to get your videos out there and seeing what eventually bites. Because when eventually you do hit one of those battleships, as it were, if on D3 you hit a battleship, then you know sort of around that area there's going to be more hits somewhere. But just constantly going for the same thing, expecting a different result, you're not going to get anywhere.
Battleships, how old are you?
I know, I was waiting for you to say that. I forgot who our core audience were now.
but you're right, you know, it's kind of it's figuring out which flavor of ice cream you like. You've got to try all of them before you figure out the right one. And I think that's super important, to just keep trying. And there's also, you know, it's kind of, what do people want to watch from me? But then also, what do I enjoy doing? Because, you know, there's a whole bunch of people probably watching this that are going, I don't want to stand in front of a camera. That sounds awful. That's the worst thing I could possibly do. But actually, if you think about a lot of the TikTok videos that we're seeing, it's from a first person view. You know, people are filming stuff outwards like this. Or there's the BuzzFeed, I guess, where things are filmed from above. And, you know, it's just people's hand. Like there's so many like food videos and woodworking videos where people are just doing stuff, and you don't have to be in the videos. But we just need to figure out, how do we make them watchable? And I think the key to that is just to try something, get it out there, because you'll get more feedback by doing that than you will by sitting thinking about it. And that's what I did quite a lot when I was younger. You know, I used to be in a band with Matt, actually. And you know, we used to be in a band, and it was like 2 years before we actually played any shows, because we were so hell-bent on making sure it was perfect. But because we'd never played it to anybody, we had no feedback to figure out what worked and what didn't. And I think that is so important. That's one of the biggest things I've learned, is that actually you just got to get something out there and then get the feedback, even if it's just sending it to your group of mates, even if it's just sending it to your family, or better yet, somebody who is in that audience, that small audience we're trying to aim for. Find some of them and give it to them and see what they say.
Yeah, that's it. And also, like you said earlier, make sure you actually enjoy doing it as well. So all the earlier things I experimented with tutorials, projects, reviews, I had a series called Tool Jewel. All of them were successful in their own way, but there were certain ones of them that I just hated filming. I hate doing reviews. Absolutely hate doing reviews. I hate planning them. I hate filming them. They're boring to edit. They get good views and stuff like that. And it's a good way to get new viewers, but they are so boring to do. And so I don't really do them anymore. You've got to figure out what works for the audience and also what works for you, and weigh those options up.
Yeah, absolutely. I think what works for you is so important, because we spend so long being told what is right for us. And actually, it works much better when you start to go, actually, I want to spend my time doing this. And then that's when you start to figure it out. And that absolutely.
But also the people telling you that don't really know any better themselves, really. It's like I did in that short video for you, people who tell you to do this job or whatever. The reason they're telling you that is because that's what they've been taught. And the stuff they've been taught was probably taught to them 30 years ago. And it's completely outdated. That stuff that happened last year is outdated now, let alone like 30 years ago. So bear that in mind when people are telling you what to do, because it's probably a bit outdated.
Yeah, no, that's absolutely right. That's absolutely right. You've got to make the decisions. And so I think, okay, so with YouTube, step one is record something. Start a video, come up with an idea, get your mates together, just crack on, create something. Step two, get it out there, put it in front of an audience, put it on YouTube, see how it works. and then repeat. And then really it's repeating until something, like you'll notice one thing gets more viewers.
Yeah.
And one thing has a little bit more traffic and all that kind of stuff. So, and when you do that, as Matt's saying, you know, it's the battleship. It's when you find that ice cream flavor, you then need to go, I'm going to do more of that one.
Yeah.
And I'm going to experiment within that. And
it'll slowly evolve over time. You can't start it thinking, right, this is going to be my style. This is going to be my thing. My style now is so niche. And like I said earlier, it's not really found in the rest of the woodworking industry at the moment. The reason that has come to fruition is because I have evolved it over time, and I've worked out what works for me, what people respond with. And it's just slow changes over that time to eventually where we are now, where I'm sort of at a format that works for me and it works for my audience, but I could not have got here if I planned it from the start.
Yeah. And I think something that I've said quite a lot this week is you don't need to know what it is you're going to do. Nobody knows what they're going to do, but you just need to have a really good idea of what you're going to do next. And just that next step, you know, and that could be, I'm going to make one video. I'm going to make a video a week for the next month. I'm going to go and get a part-time job so that I can carry on doing this in my spare time. You know, just knowing the next thing, because nobody knows what it looks like in 5-10 years.
No.
Actually, I don't care what happens in 5 years, because I want to have a good life next week.
Yeah.
It's so just knowing what you want to do next, that's the most important part of this. And I think with these steps, and Matt, where can people find you? I think we said this at the start, but where would people find your videos just so they can get some inspiration and see how you do stuff?
So yeah, go onto YouTube, type in Matt Estlea, that's Estlea. It might be in the title of this video, I can't remember, but yeah, type that in. You'll see my mug at the top, and there's the videos posted in the past year. There'll be a good starting point for you, I think.
Yeah, that's really cool. There's one part that I'd forgotten about, and I've just remembered, which this doesn't necessarily just have to be YouTube. You know, this is actually a similar process for any platform that you want to start doing this, whether it's TikTok, Instagram, whatever. Yeah. But you also don't have to be like 300 subscribers or followers before you start doing this. So something that you said you do, Matt, which you're building knives, you're building these project knives to sell to your client, to your viewers. This is one of the really cool parts where the people watching your videos then start to pay you, which, as we've said, traditionally isn't where the money comes from. Now, you don't have to wait until you've got all of those subscribers to be able to do that. Actually, you can do that now. Yeah. So, for example, you know, how many of you have got 1,000 followers on Instagram? And that's pretty much everybody. Yeah. You know, and then, you know, some people have 2,000, 3,000 just for existing, you know, just for posting about life. Same with TikTok, same with YouTube. And what I find really interesting, right? So if you've got 1,000 followers, if 10% of them watched every single thing you did, that's 100 people. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And then if 10% of them bought something that you've made, marking knife, t-shirt, mug, like whatever, that's 10 people. Mm-hmm. If 10 people are giving you 20 quid for a t-shirt, suddenly you've got 200 quid in your pocket. Yeah, that's it. That's not an unreasonable thing. If you've got 1,000 followers, 10 people are probably interested enough to help. And imagine they did that every single month. Suddenly you've already got 200 quid a month coming in. Yeah, that's the thing. You don't, mine is sort of a very rare case where it's like YouTube is the main source of income. But the other way to flip it on its head is, you know, a lot of you were wanting to start your own thing will see it's this big hill to climb. You need hundreds of thousands of subscribers to get there. It could simply just be a marketing platform for your business that captures people in and funnels them through. You don't want to make it a sales pitch on every single video. You want to provide value through tutorials or helping people out or whatever, and make them want to pay you that money. But it doesn't need to be the sole source of income. It can just be the marketing platform. Yeah, absolutely. So I guess just bringing it to a close, and there's just sort of one little bit, is how hard has it been? Difficult at times? Yes. The trouble is with what I do is it relies on
creativity. And creativity is not one of those things you can just demand and say, I need some creativity now. Sure, I can say that to myself, but it doesn't just happen like that. And I'm still actually trying to figure that out. I'm still trying to work, how can I breed this creativity? How can I build it? How can I, just make it happen? So I struggle with that. But it is, fortunately, now I've got ways of giving myself space to allow that kind of thing to grow while also being productive. So for example, like streamlining processes or building marking knives, there's not a lot of creativity in day-to-day slog work, but at least it's earning me money. So I struggle with that side of things. And yeah, it's difficult. I wish I could give an answer to it, but that's it really.
But would you change it?
Oh, no, I wouldn't. If anything, if I was constantly creative, then I wouldn't have time for all the slog work that I've got to do. So at least it's a hard cut point between, right, stop thinking, just start making stuff. And actually it kind of works quite well.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's awesome. I think and going back to what we were saying at the start, choosing something that is really exciting, something that you could get up every single day and be happy if you were doing that from minute one. That's the stuff that pulls you through when things get hard. Yeah. That's where motivation comes from. That's where, that drive happens. As
long as the end result of what you're doing, of what your business is around, is enjoyable, that there will be jobs within it that you hate doing. So like I said earlier, I hate planning videos. I hate it. It's so boring, but whatever. I hate that part of it, but that is outweighed by everything else. I even kind of enjoy accounting in a weird kind of way. Like, I know you like spreadsheets as well, though. So there's areas of it that you do like, but as long as the areas that you like cancel out the ones that you don't, and the net result is, I love this thing, then it's a sustainable thing as far as I can see.
Yeah, that's it. Nice. All right, that's awesome. Thank you, Matt. That's hugely insightful, and I'm really hoping that this has just uncovered a few things to help people just get moving on that stuff. Because I know there's a whole bunch of people that have got these amazing ideas and these incredible things that need sharing. There's even people that just need to be in front of a camera.
Yeah.
And they have no idea yet, but everybody else in the room knows. You know those sort of people, the loudest ones. The ones that make all the jokes. Yeah, you.
Can I just say, though, just to closing notes here, you don't have to be comfortable in front of the camera to make this work. I wanted to get this to prompt earlier. So the video that I made for you guys that I think is being posted across social media for Entrepreneur Week, this is the amount of takes it took me to make that video. These are all deleted. There is 167 takes in there for me trying to film that video. It's not something that comes naturally to me. It is brute force that makes it happen. So although it looks nice and polished at the end, don't think that it's an easy thing, because it's not. You have just got to start doing it and find your own methods of dealing with it. For me, it's brute force, but for you, it might be something different.
Thank you for sharing that. I had no idea. I wonder about it so long. But no, that's an amazing insight. And actually, what I think is really interesting there is, you're not going to get it right first time.
No.
Nobody gets it right first time. But actually, something that I have noticed, throughout this, we've done this totally live. This has been totally unprompted, and this is just us having a conversation, and it's been quite a natural flow. So if being in front of the camera is difficult, but that's what you want to be doing, or that's where the views are happening, who can you team up with? Because actually, I find it so much easier when I've got bounce back. I find it much easier when I'm chatting with somebody, rather than if it was just me talking. I'm exactly the same. It takes a few. My face doesn't work for the first half an hour. And so that's an awesome insight. Yeah, absolutely. Cool. So
nice.
Matt Estlea on YouTube, if you want to go and check out some of his videos, some of them are absolutely hilarious. And if you're into woodworking, then obviously check in on that as well. Have a look at how Matt does stuff. He's got some incredible learnings. He's been doing it for quite a few years now. Obviously, with this stuff, add your comments into the YouTube video. Get in touch with us if you want help building any of this sort of stuff. But get started, because the sooner you start, the sooner it starts to grow and the sooner it starts to happen. But you just need to get that first thing done. Once you've done that first thing, everything else becomes really easy after that point.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
Thank you, Matt. Thank you for coming.
Thank you, everyone, for watching. Thank you for being such a great interviewee.
I don't know about that. Awesome. Sorry. I've ended the video. But what about editing, Matt?
What about editing?
Just really quick, what editing would you do if you were editing a video straight off the first one you do?
First one I was doing, God blimey, I would just look at your favorite creator, see what they do, and just try and mimic that in the best kind of way. And that would be a good starting point for you, I would say.
What about software?
Software, Premiere Pro is what I use, but you got to pay for that. I would say use something free to begin with. That's what I used for the first 2 years before learning Premiere Pro.
Amazing. Also, I use iMovie on my phone.
Yes, that's one of the free ones. Yeah.
Yeah, there you go. Cool. Thank you, Matt. I will actually end the stream now. Been a pleasure. I'll speak to you.